Today we're going to be talking about main idea. Main idea is the most important point that the author's trying to make. All the details that he's putting into a chapter are all about one idea. All the details he's putting into a paragraph are all about one idea. You can think about a hamburger when you think about main idea. The whole thing is the hamburger. And the bun is what keeps it all together, right? So that's your main idea. As long as you stick to your main idea, your paragraph makes sense. But you can fill your paragraph with lots of different details. Just like on your hamburger, you can fill it with meat. You could put lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, pickles, whatever you want. Those are all the details that create that hamburger and make it unique. Here's an example of a main idea. Recess is really fun. So that's the big idea. And then you can create a paragraph where you give details that prove that recess is fun. You like to spend time with friends, you go swinging on the swings, you can play soccer or kickball, you can practice your cheerleading, you can practice your gymnastics. Those are all the details that would prove that recess is fun. For instance, if you had details in there like, I don't like recess, recess is boring, we don't get to go outside and play because it's a red rain day, then those details would not really belong in that paragraph because it wouldn't help prove that recess is fun. This is a story about how the American settlers that had been living in what we know of the 13 colonies, and then they created the United States. And at that point, there were probably something around 20-something states that were a part of the United States at that time. And so here is some information about how they came to live in Texas. So you're going to see how I'm going to break these paragraphs apart, and off to the side, I'm going to write that main idea, what the paragraph was mostly about. So it starts off, American settlers. During the late 1700s, the United States gained its independence from England. In 1803, the country bought the territory of Louisiana, bringing the United States boundaries up to the Texas line. People living near Texas became even more interested in this area. Between the years 1820 and 1836, over 40,000 people from the United States came to Texas to settle. Texas was still under Spanish rule at that time. Moses Austin was one of the first United States citizens to settle Texas. He wanted to start a colony in this territory, so he asked permission from the Spanish governor. In 1821, he was given permission to bring 300 United States families to Texas, but he died before he could carry out his plan. His son Stephen took over the effort. So that paragraph right there, I pulled off to the side and I was like, now who or what is that paragraph about? And it was about Moses Austin, and it was all about his plan to get people to move to Texas. Notice that I didn't come up with a main idea for the first paragraph. That's because usually when you're reading nonfiction, that first paragraph is like an introduction to the whole entire story, right? It's going to let you know what you're getting ready to read about. So if I wanted to, I could go back and say, well, this is all about people moving to Texas and how they got there. But it's really difficult, I find, to figure out the main idea sometimes to those first paragraphs because they're so broad. Then I'm going to continue. During that same year, 1821, Mexico became independent from Spain, and Texas was now under the Mexican flag. Stephen Austin, wanting to carry on with his father's work, made a new agreement with Mexico. He would be allowed to bring settlers to Texas, but they must become Mexican citizens and Roman Catholics. Austin returned to the United States and advertised for people wanting to move to Texas. He offered inexpensive land to law-abiding citizens. Over the next 10 years, Austin brought about 6,000 United States citizens to Texas. So this paragraph is no longer about Moses. It's all about Stephen Austin and how he carried out his dad's plan. Austin was not the only one to receive permission for a colony in Texas. The idea of settling in an untamed land was exciting, and many people from the United States came to give it a try. Life in Texas was not easy for the new settlers. Men, women, and children had to work very hard and had little free time. The threat of Indian raids was always there. Droughts made it impossible for farmers to grow anything. At other times, there was too much rain or seeds were not available to plant. Even though life was difficult, few colonists gave up and returned to the United States. Most of them endured the hardships and made a living as best they could. By 1836, the population in Texas had grown to about 50,000 people. So this paragraph, to me, is all about the other people that came to Texas. And also, it's about the hardships that you heard, or their hard life that they had while they were here. Now, get ready to enjoy the main idea rap. Hopefully, you guys can get really good at this so we can record our own video.